The grand dining room of my parents' estate was buzzing with the warm chaos of Thanksgiving. Plates clinked, laughter echoed, and the scent of roast turkey filled the air. I felt a familiar flutter of happiness, the kind I'd known since childhood. I stood, offering to help my mother bring out the pies. That's when my father, Richard Walker, cleared his throat. The table quieted, expecting a toast. His cold eyes locked onto mine. "Emily," he announced, his voice cutting through the warmth like ice. "You're no longer welcome at family events. You've embarrassed this family enough." I froze, my offer dying on my lips. The silence was absolute. From the corner of my eye, I saw my sister-in-law Sabrina's smug smirk. Without another word, I turned and walked out, the 50 pairs of family eyes feeling like physical blows. Rain began to fall as I drove away, the windshield wiper swishing in time with my ragged breaths. I replayed his words over and over. Embarrassed this family all because I'd spoken up at a company function about Andrew's questionable client, protecting the family name in a way my father couldn't see. Later that night, numb with hurt, I scrolled through social media. There it was, a photo of my family, gathered closely without me. My father had posted it. The caption was a knife to the heart, *family. The ones who matter. *. I stared at the screen, my tears finally drying up, replaced by a cold resolve. I opened the family group chat, my finger hovering for a moment before I deleted it entirely. "Never again," I whispered into the dark, silent room. A sharp knock on my apartment door the next morning startled me. It was my Aunt Linda, her face flushed with anger. "I can't believe him, Emily. I nearly strangled your father last night," she said, pulling me into a fierce hug. "Over tea," she fumed. "He's always been stubborn, but this is cruel." Then she leaned in, her voice dropping. "And there's more. He's already planning the Walker Legacy Gala for next spring. The big one. He's going to use it to officially announce Andrew as the new director of the family foundation." The news was another blow. I sipped my tea, the warm liquid doing nothing to thaw the ice in my chest. I looked at Linda, a strange calm settling over me. "Let them have their gala," I said softly. "I'll have mine." I pulled a dusty, floral-printed notebook from the back of my closet. My event planning dreams was scrawled on the cover in my younger, loopier handwriting. My family had always mocked it. "A cute hobby," Andrew would say. But focus on something serious. Flipping through the pages of venue sketches, menu ideas, and theme concepts, I felt a spark I hadn't felt in years. This wasn't a hobby, it was my passion, ignored and belittled. That spark became a flame. I spent the entire day at my kitchen table, fueled by coffee and conviction. By evening, I had done it. I had registered a new business name with the state and transferred the security deposit on a tiny, vacant downtown storefront. The name on the official documents read, Hearth and Grace Events. My first official client was a nervous young couple, Jessica and Mark, with a small budget for their wedding. I was determined to make it perfect. But a week before the event, my florist canceled. The only replacement cost triple my budget. I paid the difference from my own nearly empty savings account, determined not to fail them. The day was beautiful, but I ended the event exhausted and financially in the red, wondering if my family had been right. A week later, a thick, cream-colored envelope arrived. Inside was a handwritten note from Jessica. Thank you for saving our day. You made us feel so cared for. Tucked behind the note were 3 separate slips of paper, names and numbers. They asked for your contact info, she'd written. Call them. I worked tirelessly. I took on a small anniversary party, then a baby shower. Word began to spread. My clients told their friends about the planner who remembered their children's names, who personally placed the centerpieces, who created events that felt like home. I started reaching out to local nonprofits, offering my services at a reduced rate for their fundraisers. They appreciated my passion and my professionalism. My little business was slowly, quietly, gaining traction. The humiliated daughter was fading, replaced by a capable business owner. One afternoon, my phone rang with an unknown number. "Emily Walker?" a woman's voice asked. "This is Maria Flores from the Hillsborough Gazette. We'd like to feature you in a piece we're doing on local women reinventing themselves." The article came out 2 weeks later. It was a beautiful, full-page feature with a photo of me smiling in my now-decorated office. It talked about Hearth and Grace's growing reputation for creating heartfelt, authentic events. I felt a surge of pride. That pride was short-lived. Aunt Linda called me, her voice tight. "I'm at the club for brunch." Sabrina just held up the paper and announced to the whole table, "Oh look, everyone, our Emily's throwing parties now." How quaint. Andrew laughed right along with her. My heart sank. Then Linda's tone changed. "But Emily, your mother was there. She heard everything." "She didn't say a word, just got up and left. She just texted me. She's on her way to see you." My mother arrived at my office, her eyes red-rimmed. She didn't say anything at first, just pulled me into a long, tight hug. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered, her voice thick with tears. "I should have said something that night. I'm so sorry." It was the balm my soul needed. A few days later, a formal, cream-colored envelope arrived in the mail. It was an invitation to the Walker Legacy Gala. It was addressed only to me, not a plus one, and it felt cold and impersonal, sent by my father's assistant. The very event I was exiled from, now a pity invitation. I stared at the elegant script, my mother's apology giving me strength. I went to my computer, clicked RSVP, and selected no. Then I opened a new document and began drafting a proposal for my own event. I reached out to the director of the Oakwood Children's Hospital, where I had volunteered for years. I proposed a charity dinner called the Community Grace Gala, with all proceeds going to their new pediatric wing. I poured my heart into the proposal, describing an evening of genuine connection, not just showy philanthropy. The hospital board agreed to a meeting. I presented my vision, my hands trembling slightly. They asked tough questions about budget, logistics, and outreach. At the end, the director smiled. "We're impressed, Emily. We'd like to make this our primary annual fundraiser. But the first one has to be flawless. Can you do it?" I took a deep breath. "Yes," I said. "I can." The obstacles appeared almost immediately. A bakery I'd used for years suddenly said they were overbooked. Then the linen supplier canceled my order. My first choice venue called to say they had a double booking. The pattern was too clear to ignore. My father was using his influence to sabotage me. The final straw was losing the historic hall I'd set my heart on. Feeling defeated, I took a long drive and found myself by the lake. That's when I saw it, a for sale sign on a dilapidated, abandoned inn. The windows were boarded, but the potential was there. I used every penny of my savings and took a massive loan. I bought it the next week. "He took my place in the family," I whispered to myself, standing in the dusty main room. "I'll build my own." The transformation of the old inn was a monumental task. Aunt Linda became my foreman, and a crew of volunteers, past clients, friends from the hospital, showed up on weekends. We painted, sanded floors, and repaired broken windows. We named it the Hearth. It was backbreaking work, but for the first time I was building something tangible, something that was entirely mine. The place was slowly coming to life, filled with laughter and the sound of hammers. The night before we were scheduled to finish the exterior patio for our first official booking, a violent storm ripped through town. I drove there at dawn, my heart pounding. I arrived to find the newly built patio furniture smashed and the beautiful pergola collapsed into a pile of splintered wood. I was staring at the wreckage, fighting back tears of frustration, when a deep voice spoke behind me. "Need a hand?" It was Ben, a local contractor who had a shop down the road. He'd seen the storm damage and come to check on the place. He assessed the damage with a practiced eye. "We can fix this," he said simply. He mobilized his crew, and they worked alongside my volunteers through the day and into the night. Ben was quiet but kind, his hands capable and sure. By morning, the patio was not just repaired, but improved. The hearth's first wedding went off without a hitch, and a local blogger wrote a piece titled, "A Comeback Story That Feels Like Family." A subtle, warm friendship with Ben had begun. A sleek black car pulled up to the hearth a week later. My father got out, surveying the property with a critical frown. "Emily," he said, not bothering with a hello. "You're embarrassing yourself again. This quaint little project ends now. Cancel your party. You're making a fool of the Walker name." I looked at him, at the man who had exiled me, and I felt no anger, only pity. I smiled, a genuine, calm smile. "No, Dad," I said, my voice steady. Yours does. His eyes narrowed. "What is that supposed to mean?" I met his gaze squarely. "It means I'm hosting the Community Grace Gala on the same night as your Walker Gala. Right here." The town was abuzz with the news of the dueling galas. My father's event was at the prestigious, soulless Grand Heritage Hotel, promising opulence and celebrity guests. Mine was at the hearth, promoted as an evening of community, connection, and grace. I sent invitations to every small business owner who had helped me, every teacher, nurse, and past client. I didn't invite a single member of my family, except for Aunt Linda and my mother. The air was thick with anticipation. The night before the events, my brother Andrew's wife, Sabrina, posted a video online, panning across the lavish Grand Heritage Ballroom. Then she smirked. "So excited for the real gala tomorrow. I hear some people are having a charity ball in a barn." How rustic. The day of the galas arrived. I was at the hearth, directing the final touches, twinkling lights, floral arrangements, the scent of delicious food from the kitchen. My phone rang. It was a city official. "Ms. Walker, we've had to issue an immediate closure of the Grand Heritage Hotel. A major fire code violation was just uncovered in their main ballroom. The event cannot proceed." My heart stopped. I looked around my beautiful, safe, permitted venue. I took a deep breath, asked for the official's number, and made a call I never thought I would. I called my father's event planner. "I understand there's a problem," I said. "For the sake of the charity and the guests, I offer to host the Walker Gala here at the hearth tonight." There was a long, stunned silence on the other end of the phone. An hour later, my father, humiliated and cornered, reluctantly accepted. His black-tie guests began to arrive at my lakeside inn, their expressions confused and disdainful. They were expecting cold marble and crystal. They found warm wood, soft lighting, and the sound of laughter. They mingled with my guests, teachers, artists, nurses. The atmosphere was initially stiff, but the genuine warmth of the hearth began to work its magic. As the mayor took the small stage to speak, my father stood proudly, expecting public recognition. The mayor smiled. "I'm thrilled to announce that the Community Grace Gala has already raised twice its fundraising goal for Oakwood Hospital." The crowd in the room erupted into applause. My guests cheered, and even some of my father's attendees clapped politely, looking impressed. A journalist who had written about my journey pushed through the crowd, a microphone in her hand. "Emily, what do you say to this incredible triumph?" she asked. I looked out at the sea of faces, Ben smiling proudly, Aunt Linda wiping a tear, my mother beaming. My eyes briefly met my father's stunned ones across the room. I took the microphone. My voice was clear and calm. "I'd say that sometimes, family isn't about who invites you to the table," I said. "It's about who shows up to help you build your own." The applause was deafening. Later, my father found me in my office, away from the crowd. His face was a mask of fury. "You planned this," he hissed. "You humiliated me on purpose. You stole my spotlight." I looked at him, feeling nothing but a profound sadness. "I didn't steal anything, Dad. I built something. And for the record, I added calmly, I'd donated half of tonight's proceeds to the hospital in the name of the Walker Family Foundation. He stared at me, his mouth slightly agape, all his anger deflating into pure, uncomprehending shock. He had no words. The door to the office was slightly ajar, and several of his most important business partners, who had overheard everything, looked at him with new, disappointed eyes. The energy in the room shifted palpably. Guests from my father's side of the event began to drift over to the area where the live band I'd hired was playing joyful music. They were laughing, actually laughing, and enjoying themselves. I saw Andrew's clients shaking his hand and then coming over to me, handing me their business cards and complimenting the event. The veneer of the perfect Walker family was cracking. Then, in a heated whisper near the dessert table that grew louder, Sabrina snapped at Andrew. "This is a disaster. Your father wasted all that foundation money on PR and fireworks for nothing. And now we look like fools." The people around them fell silent, the ugly truth hanging in the air for all to hear. The next morning, the Hillsborough Gazette ran a new headline. It wasn't on the society page, but the front page, Walker Gala Chaos, Daughter's Event Outshines Family Patriarchs. The article detailed the venue closure, my offer to host, the fundraising success, and even mentioned the allegations of foundation fund misuse. By lunchtime, Aunt Linda was calling me. "Two major sponsors have already pulled their funding from the Walker Foundation," she said, her voice a mix of shock and grim satisfaction. As I processed this, another email popped up. It was from the national nonprofit Communities in Bloom, inviting me to partner on a series of fundraisers across the state. It was the dream opportunity I'd never dared to hope for. The fallout within my family was swift and brutal. Andrew, his reputation and finances now directly threatened, turned on our father. I heard through Linda that he had gone to Dad's study and yelled, "You pushed her out because she had a backbone. You called her an embarrassment, and now she's the one everyone in this town respects. You've ruined us." The foundation was in turmoil. Later that evening, my mother showed up at the hearth. She wasn't dressed for a visit. She had a small, packed suitcase in her hand. Her eyes were determined. "I should have left with you on Thanksgiving," she said. "Can I stay here for a while?" I hugged her tightly, my heart feeling more whole than it had in years. A week of silence passed. Then, my father's car pulled up again. He looked older, his shoulders slumped. He didn't come inside, just stood on the porch. "The foundation. We need to rebuild trust," he began, his voice rough. "The board thinks. I think, we should host next year's gala here. At the hearth. It would be a way to make things right." He finally met my eyes, and for the first time I saw not coldness, but a flicker of shame. I looked at him, this man who had tried to break me. I felt a strength I'd earned myself. "You can submit a rental application," I said politely, firmly. "Just like everyone else." The next major event at the hearth was my passion project, a fundraiser for a local shelter for single mothers. The room was filled with strong, resilient women. When it was my turn to speak, my voice was strong. A year ago, I was told I didn't belong. I was told I was an embarrassment. But I learned you don't have to stay where you're not valued. The crowd applauded, their support washing over me. From the very back of the room, half hidden in the shadows, I saw a figure. It was my father. He wasn't trying to take center stage. He was just watching. And as the spotlight caught his face, I could see the glint of tears in his eyes. At the town's annual Civic Awards ceremony, I was named Citizen of the Year for my work with the hospital and the community. As I stood on the stage in the town hall, holding the heavy crystal plaque, I saw my father in the audience. He was sitting beside my mother, who was glowing with pride. When I finished my speech, he slowly stood up. The room went quiet. All eyes were on Richard Walker. "Emily," he said, his voice echoing in the silent hall. "I was wrong. I thought legacy was about a name and a reputation. You showed me it's about what you build. You built something real. You made me proud the right way." I looked at him from the stage, across the distance he had created. I smiled, a gentle, forgiving smile. But I didn't run to hug him. I simply nodded. My piece, I had learned, no longer needed his approval. A year later, the Hearth was the most beloved event venue in the county. On a perfect summer evening, I hosted my own family event. The guest list was long: Ben, Aunt Linda, my mother, the hospital director, the baker who gave me my first chance, Jessica, and Mark from my first wedding, and dozens of volunteers and neighbors who had become my true family. Laughter and music floated over the lake. There was no formal seating chart, no stuffy speeches, just joy. I looked around at the beautiful, chaotic, loving scene. My father had been right about one thing all those months ago. I didn't belong at his family events. He told me I wasn't welcome. So I built a place where everyone is.